changeover from the rippers the other day, and we're going to put on the disc harrows. Now, I've just basically put on the two side arms, the sway bars. You've got your side arms, you've got your sway bars, which stop the implement from coming across. You adjust these so they don't hit your wheels and take off big chunks out of your wheels. Now, I haven't adjusted them at the moment, they're still pretty loose. I'm in the process, I've just put on the arms there, and I'm in the process of putting on the top hitch for the 3-point linkage. Now, I've just loosened up the bolts, which you need to do with any of your parts of your linkage if you need to adjust it, okay? You'll do the same basically for this implement is what you will do for a lot of different implements. There are some minor differences, of course. If you were using a grader blade, obviously one would go up, one would go down. You don't do it on this particular type of implement. It needs to run flat just like your actual ripper blades are. So what I've done is I've undone it, and I'm in the process, actually the other way. It needs to go away from me to adjust it. And as you'll see on the actual disc harrows here, is that you've got 3 different linkages depending on what size tractor you've got to where you're going to actually sit, where it makes it nice and comfortable for the actual tractor as well. And all you're basically doing is just lining up the pin for the hole. Me, I operate either in the middle one or the top one. It doesn't really matter. So once it's in and done, go through and put your attachment on. Now that it's adjusted, the unit's sitting level. Yes, this is on a bit of a lean, but that's why you use your adjustment. Basically, your unit's sitting level. It's nice and taut. It's nice and hard up here. It's not moving anymore. So what you basically do, and I like to use a bit of WD-40 to spray on these as they go through. There we are. Just to make sure things are just well lubricated. So that's in and done at the moment. So what we need to do now is adjust the nuts. And what you'll also see as well is on the tractor you also have 3 points in which you can actually put your top linkage as well. So again, it's up to you where you run your actual top hitch, and it will vary from tractor to tractor a little bit. Once you've set up, you're basically all right. Now they're in and on like that. We've got the shifter. Give them a bit of a quick tighten. They're all good. So just going through, checking, make sure your pins are all on. Now I still yet have to adjust. I have to adjust the sway bars on the actual implement. This is literally so the back of it doesn't swing. And again, as I was explaining, so this doesn't come across and pierce your tyre or take off big parts of your actual rubber on your tyre, because these tyres are worth many thousands of dollars each, and it doesn't take much to reckon. But if you ever have this issue, you'll know quite quickly that this is out of alignment. So basically what you can do with these here is undo them, adjusted somewhat. Yep. Sorry if I'm fumbling a little bit here. just wound it out, you've actually got in this bar, you've got a number of holes here, but one of them is where it's an elongated hole and will actually allow it to move a little bit more freely. We don't particularly want this attachment to move freely whatsoever, so I've just gone and redone that, and we will just tighten this up again. Now the key is to make sure this side is exactly the same as the other side. So now what I've done here, I'm going to repeat on that side there. As we're progressing along, because we're using a different attachment, this attachment actually has grease nipples on it. Okay, now every time before you go and use it, especially if you've been using it for quite a number of hours, you know, 8, 9, 12 hours scenario, you need to go through periodically and grease these. Otherwise, stuff will wear when it shouldn't, or it'll wear too much, not the right process. So what we've got here is where your main linkages are, or attachments for your discs that go up to your main bar or the main frame. On here you've actually got grease nipples. Now I've aligned these grease nipples to where it makes it easy for me. There is one on each of these, and there is actually 6 of these positions on this entire tractor implement on these discs. So what I'm going to do in a minute is actually start it up and lift it up off the deck and clean away around all of these nipples, and I'm going to give it a good grease, and then we'll just check the sway in it as well while it's up, in case I need to adjust as we're going along. Generally though, with the sway, you'll do that as you're actually using the implements. And at the moment you can see I'm somewhat rugged up. I'm all the way down here in Tasmania, and the breeze and all that that's coming through here is nearly icicles, and I'm at 600 plus metres above sea level, so again, it's a bit chilly. We have had some snow, and we've also had some ice scattered through here as well. Hopefully towards the end of August we should, from what the locals are telling me, because I haven't lived here very long, I'm not used to all the weather patterns and whatnot yet, but we should be seeing quite a bit of snow towards the end of August, and then hopefully that's it for the year and I can actually do a bit more in the yard. As you would have just seen, I've just brought the discs down. What's happening is it's tilting up a little bit because I am on a bit of a lean. I've already gone across the area, which I've done a number of times, but what seems to be happening, I'm actually only just skimming across the top. Now there are some spots when I ripped this paddock I got in quite well, and then other spots I didn't, how I had 3 rippers instead of 5. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to actually take this back up the paddock, and on the main frame here, I'm actually going to add some extra weight to the physical unit. The unit itself is about 550 kilos. Well, I'm probably going to add another 200 to 300 kilos with some steel on top, just some railway iron, to give it extra downward pressure. Now I have got hydraulics which can actually put downward pressure on it, but it generally seems to put more downward weight on the front, not the back. And I'm also going to adjust this a little bit more backwards, because I think it's also tilting forwards, which stops actually making the unit go down. So I'm actually going to put this back a bit more, so it's not riding so much forward, and hopefully get better depth to the actual discs as it goes along. Okay. what we've gone and done, as I said a little while ago, we're going to add some extra weight. So I got some help to actually put these buggers on because they're heavy. I guess I've probably put 200, maybe 300 kilos there. Again, I haven't weighed them, so it's just a guess, okay? Now what I've gone and done is I've put it more towards the back rather than the front. And as you can see, I've just bodged them the Australian way. I will later on actually weld a piece of steel underneath that'll have a bit of depth to it, to about as deep, if not a little bit deeper than this here, of the main frame. So it literally just stays there. It's basically too heavy to jump off unless I'm doing something silly like turning the tractor on its head. And if that happens, well, all bets are off, it doesn't matter. Hopefully that doesn't happen. So all it comes down to, as you would have seen, and you can see that it's dug it up quite well indeed. We've actually gotten the full depth, Nelly, of the disc harrows as it's gone along, and you can even see where I'm just initially putting it onto the ground where it's cutting in, because what I'm trying to do when I use the flail mower, because some of this stuff was as tall as what I was, in other spots it was as high as my kneecap, I've gone and chopped it all into finer pieces, and what I'm trying to do is turn this into the ground and go through and actually get the organic matter back into the ground and keep it there. Now, one of the things that you'll notice, there are lovely nice big worms in here. Unfortunately, with disc harrows or rippers and tillers, they chew your worm population to next to nothing. Now, I am going to be getting worm farms and adding worms back in, but I'd like to try and keep the native ones here as well, because they go a lot deeper than the European ones. Although the European ones eat this stuff really, really quickly. Kookaburra will get you, buddy, if you hang around on the top too long. Now, as it goes along, as you can see, it definitely did a lot better job, even on the ground that hadn't been worked. This first section here had been worked. What are you doing, Jasmine? Get out of there. Anyway, the kids are playing. So all it comes down to is that it worked a lot better here. I've only just done it on the other end, which actually turned it in quite well, considerably quicker than what I'd done with this, because I'd gone across it a few times, because I didn't have extra weight and all that on it, which I'd got from the local scrap yard. Railway iron, pig iron is the heaviest stuff I could lay my hands on, and it was as cheap as chips. I think it cost me a couple of $100 for half a ton. I've still got some more stuff sitting up there, but I may use some on some of the other implements. It may be just good to put implements on top of. But anyway, as you can see, it works quite well. One of the other things through here is that you would have seen a couple of rocks skip up, and I did see a few that were actually at least this big. So I've got to go through and fish them out later on. But what you've got to look at when you're actually doing with your discs, and you'll see that I've got scalloped out discs and normal flat discs. Scalloped discs are generally ones that really, really dig in and rip through, because they haven't got a whole complete leading edge that's one depth. So it has a tendency to put more weight into these. Now, depending on the configuration and who you buy them from, you could have all of these or all of those. Out the road, Jasmine. Or all of the normal round discs. If I'm not mistaken, these are about a 14 or 16 inch. Again, I haven't got a tape, so it's a guess. And these are 2.3 meters across. And with the extra weight and all that I've put on here, I've actually probably pushed this up to about 700 to 800 kilos in the vicinity. Again, I'm not weighing it. You need to make sure that your tractor can actually lift that amount. This tractor is quite capable of lifting over a ton on its back hydraulics. On its front hydraulics and forks, between 600 to 800 ton as well, but it can lift over a ton on the back. The other thing you've got here as well with your unit, it actually scrapes away all of the build up as it moves through. But what you've got to watch is if you do start hitting big rocks, that you don't bend these. This is here just to clean off your discs and leave the dirt where it is as it goes along. And they're on each and every one of these discs as they go through. You'll see that they're quite close indeed, but it's just to knock off the front edge to keep it as clean as possible and get you as much depth as possible. Anyway, I'm going to get back to making a mess in the paddock. I'll talk to you soon.